So, can we make that the last question?
Yep. I know you want to move. You've got a number of people here tonight, and I took a few questions. We've got some great people I want you to hear from tonight. And one of them is joining us up from Columbus, but she's a Cleveland area native. And that is Supreme Court Justice Maureen O'Connor. Maureen O'Connor, many of you may know her background, her history, that before she was a Supreme Court Justice, she was our Lieutenant Governor. What I hope all of you know is that before that, she was a judge and a prosecutor. This is a law and order woman who is serving us down on the Supreme Court. And what, as a practicing attorney myself, what I really respect is, and I've talked about this earlier this year, we had her up and honored Maureen O'Connor with our William H. Rehnquist Award, because in the spirit of our former Chief Justice, Maureen O'Connor writes with the authority of her convictions, and she's actually been able to change a majority on that court and to convince what had been a majority, and she was writing the dissent, to come on over and join her and to help make a more sound decision. She is someone who understands that our justice's role is to interpret the law, not to make law from the bench. So I hope you all give a warm welcome to Ohio Supreme Court Justice.
Thank you very much, Rob, for that introduction, and I want to thank Al for the invitation to be here this evening. He flagged me down in church one day on the way back from communion. We go to St. Anne's Parish, and that's where I see him. It's great to be here and to talk a little bit about the upcoming election in November for the Supreme Court. I want to say at the outset that I am running for re-election for my second term on the Supreme Court, and so too is Justice Evelyn Stratton. And although we don't run as a team, and we cannot endorse one another because we're members of the judiciary and judges can't endorse anybody, let alone other judges, I do want to emphasize that it's been a pleasure to serve with Justice Stratton, and she feels the same way about me, and although we can't endorse each other, I can probably tell you that my sons will be voting for her, and I'm quite confident that her sons will be voting for me. So that's all I'm going to say on that topic. I think it's really important that we focus on the Supreme Court, and I know that with all of the focus on the national election, and you know, ours was not, obviously, picking a presidential candidate was not down to the wire the way the Democrats were, but that seemed to capture, the Democratic race seemed to capture everybody's attention, the media and the political powers' attention, and I think all of the other races kind of fell by the wayside, and they weren't the focus of a lot of attention. I think that needs to change, especially here in the state of Ohio, because we do have some races, some mighty important races on the ballot this year, and we need to shift our attention not only, I mean, we certainly focus on the national elections, but focus on what's going to be happening here in the state of Ohio. I know from being in Columbus, and I'm sure you know from being politically active, that there's a real race for our House seats here in the state of Ohio, that there is a confidence level amongst the Democrats that they will capture the General Assembly House. And that's something that they're working very diligently upon. They also figure that if they can capture 2 seats on the court, on the Supreme Court, and keep in mind that we have 7 Republicans on the court currently, but if they can capture 2 seats, that's a great start. And if you couple those 2 seats that would be occupied by the individuals that are opposing Justice Stratton and me, and then you add Justice Pfeiffer's continuous vote to that scenario, you've got 3 solid votes. And Justice Pfeiffer, you know, God love him, you know, he and I get along fabulously. It's just that we always agree to disagree. That he is always the lone Republican that is always a dissent on so many of our cases, and that's okay. And I think we need people to offer an alternative opinion. We just don't need that alternative opinion to be the majority opinion. And so there's always room for a dissenter. But my point is, if we lose these 2 seats on the Supreme Court, we've got a solid 3, and then sometimes some of the other justices can be convinced to come over and join the majority on some pretty, would be convinced to come over and join that solid 3 on some pretty important issues. This year, we have upheld at the end of '07 and into '08 tort reform here in the state of Ohio. The General Assembly passed tort reform. It was challenged. Those challenges got to the Supreme Court, and the decision on the limiting of non-economic loss and punitive damages here in the state was declared constitutional, those statutes, but there were 2 justices that voted that they were unconstitutional. Now, if Justice Stratton and I were replaced, then we would have probably 4 justices the next time a challenge came around, and that would do away with the General Assembly's good work on legislative reform in the area of tort law. So you can see the ripple effect or the domino effect or whatever, what kind of effect you want to call it. We have 3 co-equal branches of government, and it's important that you focus not only on the executive branch and the legislative branch, but you have to realize the importance of the Supreme Court, because when those laws are challenged, they're challenged in the court. And if you've got a court with an agenda, and the majority of the members of that court have an agenda, it doesn't matter what the General Assembly does, and it certainly doesn't matter what the governor does, because the court has the final say-so on the constitutionality and the appropriate applicability and interpretation of the laws passed by the General Assembly. So it's really extremely important, and I know that you know that because I'm looking at people who are in a very, very elite minority, and that is the very elite 1% of the members of our voting public who pay attention as you do and come to membership meetings such as this and acquaint themselves on the grassroots level with the candidates, with the issues, and know what they're talking about and the reason they're going to vote the way they vote. Most people vote based on name ID, a 15-second soundbite that they might hear on television, an attractive piece of literature that might come through their, this mail slot on their front door, or somebody tells them to vote in some way. Probably the latter method is the most influential, and that's where you, as politically aware citizens, come into play. Your friends, your neighbors, the people you go to church with, your family members, the people you work with, know, I'm sure, because I would hope you don't keep it a secret, that you're politically aware, that you're involved, that you know what the score is, so to speak, on any given topic, an issue that's going to be on the ballot, or a person that's going to be on the ballot, what's happening on the national level and what's happening on the state and the local level. And if people that you know that you know the score on those sort of things, they will seek you out for your opinion, and you can offer it with intelligence and with authority. And you can be the messengers for the Supreme Court, because statistics show that there's traditionally a 30% drop-off of people when they go to the polls and they go to vote for the judges. They say, I don't know the judge, I don't know what they do, I don't know anything about it. I'm not going to vote. Rather than make a mistake, I'm not going to vote. So I always say that there's nothing more dangerous than an uninformed voter, because their vote's as good as your vote. And they can cancel out all of the informed voters that walk into the polling place. So let's minimize the number of uninformed voters out there by freely disseminating the information about the Supreme Court and any other topic that you feel that you'd like to inform them on. It's going to be a really interesting dynamic at play in November. And I don't care who the pundits are, and I don't care what their experience is, they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know who's going to show up to the polls, and they don't know how they're going to vote. And when I say how they're going to vote, to what extent they're going to vote. There may be people that are first-time voters, or people who return to voting that have not voted in years and years and years, but they're energized because they want to go in there and vote for one candidate. And that seems to be the trend and the message that we hear from those that are supporting Senator Obama. The only question is, are they going to go in there and vote for Senator Obama and then say, well, as long as I'm here, I might as well do some more damage and then go down the ballot and get to the Supreme Court and, you know, go to the card that they take in there with them, supplied by Senator Obama's people. And, you know, my name's not going to be on that card, and Justice Stratton's name is not going to be on that card. So that's my concern, is that, you know, they're going to go down ticket as well.